welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet, and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How are you doing tonight?
I think another week, another podcast, and I'm looking forward to getting into these weekly updates about what's going on. And there is a lot happening again. I think we mentioned that last week, but yeah, there's a lot happening again this week here in Calgary.
Yeah, I know you put out a kind of a mini episode earlier this week. I'm sorry I wasn't able to join in on that one, but I listened to the interviews, and it was great to get that up about the futsal nationals. And we have a lot more to talk about tonight.
As we like to do, if you're a new listener, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about, Scott?
So this podcast focuses on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk about the teams and the players from the city's soccer community, from the grassroots and amateur leagues, all the way up to the university, semi-pro, and professional level.
Let's dive into the topics for this week. We're going to talk about Cavs. They had 2 matches in Victoria, and they signed a new player, Bradley Kamdem. We also did an interview with Diogo Raposo. He is the technical director of Calgary Blizzard, and he is also going to be the head coach of the Blizzard Women's League One Alberta club.
Yeah, it's another jam-packed episode with a lot to talk about. I was glad we were able to chat with Diogo about how Blizzard is preparing for the upcoming League One exhibition season. He had a lot to say about who's going to be in this league in terms of the players that are going to be playing, as well as how League One Alberta aims to coexist with the Alberta Major Soccer League, and how it's going to kind of mesh with preseason for the university season, which gets underway in August. So no, he had a lot of insight. He's very involved in women's soccer in Alberta, and he was a great get for the podcast.
Yeah, and we'll run that in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the Cavs, and let's talk about Victoria. They played 2 matches this past week. One was on Thursday night, and that was the Voyageurs Cup Canadian Championship match, and they lost it on penalties. Their second match was on Sunday afternoon, and that was a league match, and it was also a draw. It ended in a draw, and no penalties in a regular league match.
Right. So Cavalry has started the season with 3 draws, if you count the cup defeat as a draw. Overall, I mean, decent results in the league, considering they were playing on the road against 2 of the league's traditional powerhouses in Forge the week before, and then Pacific. But obviously, I think the disappointment is seeing Cavalry's cup run come to such an early end, and for the second year in a row in a penalty shootout. I think some of Cavalry's best moments as a club have come in the Canadian Championship. So it's kind of weird to think that they're out of it so early this year. And it's definitely disappointing to think that it might be, a year plus before they may potentially get a crack at an MLS team again. My own kind of opinions of the matches are that it's definitely a new look Cavalry squad so far, and it's going to take some time for these new players to establish themselves. Quite a few of Cavalry's new players have already played quite a bit. Schmidt Shom comes to mind. I know Udo Kachima, Callum Montgomery, Ethan Beckford, Jesse Daly have all gotten minutes or started. So it's going to take time for some of these new guys to get used to their teammates, to get used to potentially the league if they're new to it. So it might be a few more games before we know how this Cavalry squad matches up to, say, last year's team. But I think overall, you could tell in that second game against Pacific, especially the last 30 minutes or so, they were probably just hanging on. They're playing for a draw at that point. I think they were pretty tired. There were a couple of players who were getting cramp towards the end of it. I think some Pacific fans may have thought that was a time-wasting tactic, but I honestly do think they were just literally getting cramp. It was their 3rd game in a week, still early season when you can see those kind of cramps happening. And yeah, I think I think we talked last week. We were pretty sure that Cavalry just stayed in Victoria after Thursday night. It didn't make sense to go back to Calgary for 2 days and then fly back and then play a game. So I imagine they were they're staying in a hotel and maybe doing some team bonding or some training on the island. And yeah, I bet they were just excited to finish that match and head back home.
Yeah, I would agree. I felt the same way watching that match. And I also agree with your statements about it's going to take a little bit of time for some of these players to become acclimatized, not only with their teammates, but just the league in general. We're talking about, of all those new players you mentioned, only one has a Canadian Premier League experience, and that is Chaumet. Everyone else is coming from a different league. I think one of the things probably worth contemplating is that even if you're coming from a pretty decent quality league, like a Jesse Daly coming from the Australian A-League, I think that's a pretty decent quality league, for example. It's just different here, and it's different anytime you switch to a different league. I don't think it's a unique thing to the Canadian League, but I think it just takes a little bit of time. So I think for a lot of these players, we'll have to wait and see how things go over the next little bit and see how they acclimatize and see how they adjust.
Yeah, and I think travel is such a tough part of the Canadian Premier League, and a lot of players, I think, bring that up when it's their first year in the CPL. And Calgary has already, traveled to Ontario to play Forge, and then not that long afterward, they're on a plane again, this time to the West Coast, out to Vancouver Island. Different time zones, different climates, really. I mean, I think Hamilton is very different weather-wise compared to Vancouver Island. I remember when I was living on Vancouver Island and my first time playing soccer, I sweated like 3 liters in no time. It was just, so humid. So yeah, it's one of the things that makes the CPL probably quite unique, but it also makes the CPL a tough league to play in.
Right. Let's move on to our next topic. And as expected, the Cavs announced a few days back that they have signed left back Bradley Kamdem.
Yeah, I was really, really excited to see this signing confirmed. If you follow me on Twitter, you're probably already aware of that. Brad is actually a former teammate of mine. We both played for Chinook Soccer Club when we were in high school, and yeah, he was the only player from our team to go on to play professional soccer. In U18, he was probably by far our most important or best player. He was starting center back, played 90 minutes every match. And actually, our coach would often put him up front if there was 10 or 15 minutes to go and it was still 0-0, or if we were down a goal, because quite often he could turn it on and score a goal if need be. So he was pretty pivotal for our team. So I've followed his career with interest ever since he went down to Huntington, Indiana, to play NAIA college soccer after high school, and he was only there for a year before he made the move to the University of Northern Las Vegas, and NCAA, and did quite well down there, and became, I believe, Calgary's first player to be drafted in the MLS when he was selected by Colorado Rapids. And even though he didn't play for Colorado, he did have a really good USL career. He bounced around from club to club, but managed to stay in that league for a good 4 or 5 years, and then quite recently went overseas to Malta to play for a pro club in Malta's first division. And it's neat to see him kind of back where he started. Not necessarily started, because I do know he lived somewhere before coming to Calgary, but no, it's been very full circle for him. And I'm just excited to kind of reconnect with him and see how he fares in the CPL and for Cavalry.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a reunion with him and the coach. Tommy Wilden Jr. had him on the original Foothills PDL team back in the day, and he did play, maybe it was 2 years with that club, but at least 1 year. There's definitely history there between them, so they're quite familiar with each other. So from the standpoint of understanding what the coaching staff is going to be looking for and expectations, I guess that should be relatively easy to get everyone on the same page there, I would think. But yeah, it's nice to see a Calgarian come back and come back to the team after being away. He's still like I think he's 20. Is it 28, 29 years old? So he's got he still has plenty of soccer left in him, I would think.
Yeah, and I think Cavalry is I'm biased. I'm friends with him, so I'm going to say good things about him. But I do think Calgary is getting a versatile defender. As I mentioned, he always played center back for us, but I think a lot of his pro career has been played as a left back. And I imagine Calgary is signing him as a left back, kind of as replacement for Bradley Vliet. I've noticed Jose Escalante has been deputized at left back so far this season. And I think Brad coming in would allow Escalante to move further up the wing, which I think Cavalry fans would appreciate. I'm curious to see if Brad will play this Sunday. Cavalry's home opener is against Valor. And it's pretty common, I think. Tommy usually doesn't start players immediately after they've been signed, but I imagine at the very least he'll be subbed in if he's healthy.
Yeah, I would suspect the same. League One Alberta is right around the corner. The first matches are coming up on May 12th, and in anticipation of the beginning of the League One season, we did have a chance to interview Diogo Raposo. He is the technical director and the head coach of Calgary Blizzard. They will be entering a team into the women's division of League One Alberta this year. We had a chance to chat with him. Scott?
Yeah, Diogo is a very well-established name in soccer in Alberta, particularly women's soccer. He's the Dinos head coach, and he led that team to a really good 2022 season. Dinos went 9-3-2 overall and made it to nationals. Apart from that, Diogo was previously head coach of MacEwan University's women's soccer team, and he's also been involved with Foothills WFC, as well as the Vancouver Whitecaps Girls Elite Regional Excel Supercenter program in Calgary. Really impressive resume. Had a lot of insight about what people can expect with this League One Alberta exhibition series or season that's fast approaching here.
Yeah, let's run that interview now. We'd like to welcome Diogo Raposo to the podcast today. He is the head coach, the Calgary Blizzard. Actually, we should really get you to properly introduce yourself. I believe you're the technical director and head coach of the Blizzard. Maybe talk about your role there just a little bit so we have you all right.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. Yeah, I'm the sporting director at Calgary Blizzard, so I'm responsible essentially for all things on the technical side of the club. So I manage some technical directors both on the boys and the girls side. And then I'm currently also the University of Calgary Dinos women's head coach as well.
Okay, great. We have a few questions here about League One Alberta. Our first question is, what are the goals for the team in this new league, and how do you plan to achieve them?
I think the first goal is the exposure of the players. We've got a hotbed of talent in Alberta, especially on the female side, and that's where we have a team this year. Again, promoting them and starting to create that pathway for them to go and play pro if that's the avenue that they want. We want to provide that for them. Secondly, within the league, we want to win. We're an extremely competitive bunch. We were able to win the major league, the Alberta Major Soccer League last year in the regular season, and we want to do that again, but obviously in a pro-am or semi-pro environment.
Thanks, Diogo. I'll ask the next question, which is about something you just touched upon, some of the players who are going to be on this team. Blizzard has been releasing a pretty steady stream of player announcements on social media already. Can you talk a little bit about some of the players that will be playing for this team?
Yeah, I think our due diligence was first to our club and the pathway that we've created for the young ladies that have come up through our environment and now playing at universities both in Canada and in the US. We wanted to promote them and be loyal to them because they've been loyal to us as well. But we also added some pieces from players from all over Calgary, from Southwest United, from Foothills, from Calgary West, because we are a Calgary club. We don't want to just be Blizzard. We want to represent the city. Most, if not all of them, are currently playing university, again, in Canada or the US, as well as some alumni. And then we have a couple surprises towards the end of our announcements. We have a couple former pros that will be playing with us, but we'll leave that surprise for later on.
Okay. The Blizzard will also be playing in AMSL this year. So will players be playing in both competitions, or how is it going to be divided up, and how interconnected will those clubs be?
Yeah, we're in a lucky position where we have on our women's side, we've got over 100 players playing over 5 teams. So that's League One, Alberta Major Soccer League, Premier in Calgary Women's Soccer, as well as Div 2. So we're lucky that each team will have essentially their own roster. There are some players who may float in between. Our major league team will be primarily 2004 players who are just coming back from university and 2005 players who are about to leave for university. So again, an extremely competitive training group. That group will train with the League One group. So it'll be a player pool of about 30 to 35 players, similar to what a university environment will look like. And then our two premier teams will train together. But we expect to be, again, extremely competitive in that major league environment because we are treating it like a university environment. And we've kept our League One roster to about 16 to continue to help promote those 2004s, 2005s, and even maybe some younger players who deserve a chance in League One to go and prove themselves. So we've kept those rosters a little bit small because we want to provide avenues for players who are ready and deserve a shot.
And Diogo, I know you recently held open tryouts, correct?
Yeah, we just finished yesterday.
Well?
Yep.
Just finished them yesterday. What was the response like? And did you find that you may have uncovered any diamonds in the rough from doing an open trial?
Yeah, we had 37 girls attend. Some were Blizzard players, some were players from Lethbridge, some from Red Deer, all over, really. Current university players that play at other institutions. I think it was great to see. I think for us, a good tool to see some of our younger players who wanted to go and experience that environment too, from a trials point of view. But yeah, there is one or two players that we'll be talking to closely to see how they come into our environment. They're actually from out of town, so more in-depth discussions about billeting or staying in town or how they travel to come and train. But again, we want to not just be a pathway for Blizzard players, but for all of Calgary. And now, obviously, there's some Lethbridge or Red Deer players who want to be in this environment, deserve to be in this environment. And as long as the travel and the training makes sense for them, then it's going to make sense for us.
Sounds good.
I know the League One Alberta schedule was just announced, and I noticed on there that you're slated to play all of your home matches at Broadview. Can you talk a little bit about how you decided to go with Broadview?
Yeah, there's some league requirements, of course, with it being a standard-based league of what we need to provide and an experience for fans and for parents who want to come out and watch and hopefully our youth members at Blizzard and Calgary that want to come watch. So we wanted to provide them with a great experience and product on the field. I think Broadview provides that. It's probably the best, if not one of the best, grass fields in Alberta. Having lived in Edmonton myself and now obviously in Calgary, the pitch is massive. It bodes well for keeping the ball on the ground and moving it well. They take great care of it. There's now obviously new change rooms. There's new referee rooms. There's terrace up top down at Broadview. So CUSA have done an amazing job there, and they were happy, or we were lucky enough to be able to get in there. But I think, yeah, from an experience point of view, I could just imagine on a warm summer day, hopefully we'll have beer gardens there. We're working on that right now, but where people can come and watch, enjoy a game of footy, but also have a great experience on a great grass pitch. I think every idealist loves a great grass field that players can play on and enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm. You kind of answered our next question there, to be honest, Diogo, which was going to be about like concession possibilities, game day experience. I agree with you. I think Broadview is very much a popular choice for soccer fans and players, especially because of the natural grass aspect, and as well as its centrality, right? Memorial is, of course, it cleaves Calgary in two, from dividing the north and the south sides of the city. And Broadview has always been a good choice for Alberta Major Soccer League games in the past. In terms of ticket prices, is that something you'd be able to speak to at this point?
Yeah, we actually just opened up season tickets yesterday.
Okay.
So season tickets would be $35 for adults, and that would give you the 4 home games, as well as we'd be promoting any preseason games, which we've scheduled one with Foothills UWS. And then for youth would be $15, but any youth player who is wearing a CMSA jersey, because again, we want to promote this, we want to build role models within the community, they would get in free. So they wouldn't have to pay anything. If you're under 18 and you're wearing a CMSA jersey, we want you at games. We want to create that environment where females and males alike can come and see some of their future role models and see where they can be playing here in a couple of years, hopefully.
Nice. That's definitely pretty affordable. Great to hear.
What are some of the bigger challenges that you're anticipating going into a new league, and how do you plan to overcome them?
Yeah, I think when you get into a standards-based league and there's certain things that we want to do for our players to really create a great experience for them, it's that part of how we compensate for or cover travel expenses, how we cover food, hotel expenses, and really make it a great environment. Obviously, with that comes cost, and we want this to be self-sustainable from our programming and not burden our youth club in any way, and it won't. I think it's that piece where it was announced quite quickly, and we've got to do our part to do some fundraising as well as get some sponsorship to make sure that the players are having a great experience, and it's not just a women's league. It's more than that, as well as making sure that, again, we're not burdening our youth club or putting extra fees on youth members. I think it's that piece where we want it to be self-sustainable and we want it to succeed. We're not here for the short term. We're not just here for 1 year. We want this to be a long venture with Blizzard, and we want the men's side to come into it next year. So we believe if we do a great job and for the players, for our members, that we'll have that on the men's side next year as well, because we're ready to perform there too. I think that's, I'd say, to be honest, the biggest challenge. The second piece is the competition, knowing some of the rosters that are going to be in League One. It is a lot of university-based players. I think it'll be tough. There's not going to be any easy game. We've seen some of the rosters being released from like a BTB. We know the quality that Foothills always has, and St. Albert with their connections with Northwest United from the Major League point of view. Those teams are going to be very, very good. So that's the second piece where there's no off day. You're going to have to travel, and there's those complications there. But we're looking forward to it. Those are challenges that we want, and that's why we're excited for this league.
Nice. I think once again, Diogo, you kind of answered our next question, which was going to be about how you would gauge a successful inaugural exhibition season. But is there anything else on that point that you feel is worth mentioning?
Yeah, it's that first part to your first question when we started, the exposure for the players. I think making sure that there's great marketing, there's players or there's fans at games, and them getting the exposure, hopefully, of pro clubs, Canada Soccer, those type of pieces, that if we can just get one, or not even our club, if any of the 5 clubs can just get 1 or 2 players to go into a national training camp, that's a success. That's why this league's coming in, and we want to be able to provide that avenue. Obviously, on-field success, we never stop on the field without wanting to win as well.
What message would you like to give to fans as you embark on this new season in a new league?
I think my message is similar to, we talked about it at open trials yesterday with the players that were there. This is breaking grounds. This is providing an avenue for players who we believe it's long overdue to be able to get in front of the community. And I think it takes a village to raise any player, but also takes a village to raise a league like this and to make it what we want it to be in regards to the exposure, to regards to the quality. So I'd say the community get behind us, the community come watch games. We're doing our part. I promise that, to put a great quality product on the field, but also have a great games day. And that piece where you can hopefully enjoy a summer evening on a Friday, come and grab, like we said, some concessions, some food, and hopefully we put on a show for everyone.
Well, I think that's a great place to finish it off on, Diogo. But thanks again for making yourself available to chat with us today on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on.
Bye. Thanks again to Diogo Raposo for taking the time to do the interview. Anything you want to add, Scott? Any thoughts or comments?
Well, I thought the season ticket options that he brought up were pretty reasonable and quite affordable, although I do know and I recognize that it's not a full season that fans will be getting. But no, I thought those prices he mentioned were great. And if they do manage to get like a beer gardens at Broadview, I think that can make for a really great experience on a Friday evening, particularly to go there and watch a game. Other thing I'd like to mention is just with the new Pro Women's League launching in a few years in Canada, League One is a great platform for Alberta's top players to play some meaningful games at a high level and possibly get themselves on the radar. I imagine there's a lot of players who are, 17, 18, 19 right now. And by the time Project 8 kicks off in a couple of years, they'll be at that age where they're ready to make the step up to the Pro League. So no, it's great that this is launching now.
Yeah, I think that could be a real carrot for a lot of women's players, knowing that there is something coming on the horizon. A couple things I wanted to mention that I thought were interesting in the interview. He did mention that if everything goes kind of the way they expect and according to plan, Blizzard will enter a men's team next year. So, I don't think that's exactly incredibly shocking news, but it's nice to know that there are some teams that are coming up with some plans. And I do like the idea of using Broadview. It's really a great venue. It's got a nice pitch and it's got a nice location. Can't really argue with it overall. It's a pretty good place to watch a match.
Yeah. I think the only semi-complaint would be parking there. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been to Broadview. I know there is a parking lot, but I remember once I had a men's game on Broadview and the parking lot was full and I had to park on the street somewhere. But again, I don't imagine League One games are going to be getting, 1,000 fans or anything like that. So I think Broadview is the ideal choice. I know there's going to be a few other local fields that are hosting League One games, like Hellard Field at Shoaldice, and the Dinos, the University of Calgary Dinos field is hosting a couple of games. And I noticed Macron Sports Center, which is Foothills training facility out in the far southeast. That's also on the schedule. But no, I think Broadview is the ideal location. Hopefully they can really make the most of that venue.
It won't be long now. It's only a couple weeks away. So anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can subscribe to this podcast by using all the usual podcasting platforms. You can head over to our website at yycsoccer.com. There's more information about how to subscribe. Leave a question or comment. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.